Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're painting some stones and turning them into adorable decor pieces, so let's get started. I'm using these beautiful stones for today's DIY projects. To make fridge magnets, I picked 4 stones in different shapes and sizes. I wanted a summer theme, so I started sketching out a strawberry, a lemon slice, a donut, and an ice cream on each of the pieces. To paint the strawberry, I mixed red with a little pink and light yellow acrylic paint. Then I started filling in the shape, applying 2 coats of paint and making sure to let it dry fully between coats. Next, I used off-white paint on a small detailing brush to add tiny dots over the red. I painted the stem of the strawberry with light green paint. Then I used black on the same brush to add outlines and make the painting pop even more. Next, I used brown paint to color the chocolatey parts of the donut. I darkened the brown by mixing in a bit of black and painted the shadow areas to give it more depth. For the icing, I used vanilla acrylic paint. Then I added sprinkles with short tiny lines in red, pink, and orange. Finally, I outlined the donut with black. Next, I painted the ice cream with pastel pink and light yellow acrylic paint. For the cone, I mixed a light brown shade. I painted the cherry on top red and added darker brown parallel diagonal lines on the cone. Then I painted another set of parallel lines crossing the first set to create the textured look of an ice cream cone. I colored the cinnamon stick brown and added shadows under the pink and yellow parts of the ice cream. Then using a detailing brush, I outlined it with black paint. Then I moved on to coloring the next stone. First, I painted the rind and pulp of the lemon slice with light yellow acrylic paint. Then I filled in the rest of the area with off-white paint. After the first coat dried completely, I applied another coat to make the paint more opaque. I added some seeds using the same off-white paint. I also applied a wash of light green paint to the parts of the rind and added shadows with a darker yellow along the outer edges of the pulp segments. To finish off, I added a black outline. After painting all the stones, I attached button magnets to the back of the rocks with hot glue, holding them in place until the glue cooled. I added some extra hot glue around the edges of the magnets to secure them even further. You can also use super glue for a stronger bond. So this completes our DIY stone fridge magnets. I'm so happy how they turned out. Comment below and let me know which magnet is your favorite. I started by selecting this large oval stone as the base of our photo holder. I planned to create a checkerboard pattern on the stone, so I began by drawing evenly spaced horizontal lines along the stone surface with a pencil. Next, I drew vertical lines perpendicular to the horizontal ones to create a grid. Make sure to extend the lines around the stone following its contour. This step is optional, but I also darkened the pencil outlines with a Sharpie. Then using a small paintbrush, I filled in every other square with peach acrylic paint. You can decide how large you want the squares of the checkerboard pattern to be based on the size of the stone you choose. After the first layer dried, I applied another layer of paint. For the remaining squares, I used brown acrylic paint. I carefully filled in the rest of the squares, making sure the paint didn't transfer to the adjacent squares. After the paint fully dried, I coated the stone with a layer of polyurethane varnish in satin finish. Next, I took a black aluminum craft wire and wrapped one end around the stone. Then I twisted the end several times to secure the wire tightly around the stone. After eyeballing the required length, I used a wire cutter to trim off the excess. Next, I strung some peach beads onto the wire until I reached the length I wanted. I took the end of the wire and pushed all the beads tightly against the stone. Then I bent the wire and threaded it through the back of the top bead, pulling it through the top to create a loop. This step ensured the beads stayed in place. Finally, I wrapped the remaining wire around the pen to create a coil, then removed the pen to reveal the coiled wire end that would hold photo. This completes our DIY painted stone photo holder. I absolutely love the checkerboard pattern and the bead details. For this DIY, I picked a small and medium pebble and sketched an owl on each one. I started with a heart shape for the owl's face, then added 2 wings on the sides and finished by drawing the eyes and beak. To paint the owl's bodies, I mixed peach and white paint with a touch of brown. I painted both the body and the face of the owls, leaving out the eyes and beaks. I made sure to apply 2 coats for an even coverage. Next, I painted their heads with taupe color, which I created by mixing a bit of brown with grey acrylic paint. For the wings, I used a grayish-brown shade. With a small brush and light grey paint, I added tiny scattered dashes all over the owl's heads for extra detail. I used light brown paint to add small U-shapes on the wings to define the feathers. I also painted tiny dashes on the bodies with off-white paint, spacing them out evenly. Using a small brush and the same off-white paint, I created feather-like strokes around the eyes. For the eyes and beaks, I chose a mustard yellow shade. I also added a dark brown outline to make them stand out. I painted the pupils black. Then I used white acrylic paint to add shine to the eyes. I also added highlight to the beaks. Next, I grabbed a wood slice and mixed navy blue with a bit of black acrylic paint to create a gorgeous midnight blue shade. Then I began painting the wood slice, intentionally leaving a small gap along the edges so the wooden texture would still show through. I think this added a beautiful detail to the piece. Once the paint dried, I added some stars using white paint. Next, I took a piece of twig and assembled everything. Once I was happy with the arrangement, I began gluing the pieces. First, I secured the twig near the bottom of the wood slice with hot glue. Next, I glued down the pebble owls, holding them in place until the glue set. For the finishing touches, I added some dried moss, gluing it to the left below the twig and a small amount to the right above the twig. And there you have it, our DIY owl pebble art on a wood slice. I hope you enjoyed all the stone projects I shared today. Let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more DIYs. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.